Hello, everyone. I'm Stephen W. Long. This is The Writing Life. My guest today is Rosemary Lombard. And obviously, if you watched before or interpret the title of the program, this is about writing. Today may be a little bit different. We're going to learn a little bit more than that, I think. But Rosemary was introduced to us particularly for your poetry. And so I want to start there, and then we're going to get into the inspiration for the poetry, which is a whole another fascinating area. So, and would you talk a little bit about how you came to this? I know that your background, your academic background, included literature. So, did you have kind of a feeling for poetry? Was that a love before this?
Not particularly.
Okay.
I was teaching music history and literature.
Okay.
And until I got connected with turtles, which we'll come to later, and did some subsequent teaching of poetry, not thinking that I could write any, until
interesting.
10 years ago, I went to my first writing conference, and as a long-time nonfiction writer, I didn't have enough nonfiction classes to go to, so I went to a couple of poetry classes.
Oh, okay.
And lo and behold, maybe this is a poem. So, and then the next January, I went to about 5 of William Stafford birthday celebrations.
You bet, sure.
Which were happening every year in memory of William Stafford, who was a teacher of mine, actually, at Lewis and Clark.
What a privilege.
Indeed, he was my favorite teacher. A person who was not the kind of teacher who stood up and told you things, but was a learning person with you, and listened to your interpretations and your ideas and brought things out of you. This is very different from high school. This was a literature.
And in that class, were you writing then, or was it more dissecting or interpreting poems?
What I was taking from him was basically world literature.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was a music major at the time. And then in 1979, when the work with the turtles began, I started writing notes of behaviors, what happened, and started, lots and lots of notebooks.
Okay, now I think I need a transition here.
Okay.
You were, your area of study was music.
Yes.
And then in 79 you said, like when the turtles, I'm going to say showed up.
Yeah.
What happened there to get you from music to turtles?
Okay. When I was a graduate student in Indiana, I ended up with a couple of box turtles from the area. At that time, that was 1969, 71, we took them out of the wild, which is a very embarrassing thing to admit. Now, heaven knows I wouldn't do that.
Right. We learned.
But at that time, where was the conservational thought? People in general, and myself in particular, didn't think anything of taking an animal out of the wild.
Sure.
Terrible thing to do. But we got to be friends. And the first thing I learned was that if you hold a turtle, he wants to go somewhere else. He may be trying to get away from you, and that was the case when I picked this first turtle up off the road. So he's going,
right.
And I learned within a day or so, if you pick up a turtle and he starts doing that, or even looking in a certain direction, you follow that turtle and walk the direction he's going. Even a wild turtle within 30 seconds usually relaxes, realizes that you have given him power. He's treating you like a tool.
Sure.
A mobility aid of some sort. And it shows up their curiosity because they go to the things that they're interested in. And so all our bonding was built on that giving of power away to these animals.
And at this time, you're on your own.
I'm on my own.
You're not, this isn't a class.
Right, right.
Yeah.
We moved to Chicago. I started teaching at a university.
Turtles went with you.
Turtles with me.
Right.
We had 4 eventually. And then after one of the mother turtles started to show me that she understood a particular concept that I could go into. Can we go into turtle history now?
Let's do it.
I think it explains everything. She was sitting in my hand. We were just looking at our newly polished oak floor in Milwaukee at this time. Had gone to Milwaukee. 1979. And all of a sudden, she tenses up. She starts steering like crazy. She steers over to a house plant, about as far away as one behind you. And she stops and stares. She'd never been interested in plants. She wouldn't even eat any. So she stops and stares, and I'm wondering what's going on. This is very unusual behavior. They had invented gestures of various sorts, and I found that interesting, but this was a little beyond that. So after a while, she does a pivot, goes right angle, finds another houseplant, stops, stares, and she does this for every houseplant in the house. And then she does all the mirrors in the house. And I start saying, Diode, where's a plant? Where's a mirror? Not knowing, assuming she probably didn't know what those words were. But by the time she got through with like 20 houseplants and 20 mirrors, I thought the simplest explanation was she's trying to show me she understands the concept of classification of objects.
Okay.
Now, that in itself is not all that unusual, perhaps, in that...
Okay, well...
Unusual in the demonstration, yes,
okay.
But not unusual in the need. Every animal needs to be able to classify what's good to eat, what isn't.
I guess I don't think about an animal, and this isn't fair, and I'm going to say it because I don't know, but at that level, I don't think of a turtle as being a raven. You know how smart.
Yeah, ravens are really smart.
And maybe it's just because that's what I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I guess their brain size would be about the same. Maybe that's not
mm-hmm.
relevant, but
it's not very relevant because these days people are finding animals with very small brains doing things that really surprise us.
So we can put that to rest. That's not
yeah.
part of this.
And in that time, brain size or even relative brain size was a big issue. And the initial thing would be say, oh, an animal that with a brain that size could not possibly be doing anything like that. But she was. And she was, the important thing there was that she was trying to communicate with me.
Okay, and I'm with you. I'm just going to be devil's advocate.
Yeah, sure.
Just because this is
Sure.
so new and strange.
Right, right.
Because I looked up a couple of things about you, and when I was reading that, I thought, you know what this reminds me of is people use a Ouija board.
Oh,
And the pointer is taken off. Well, we think it's probably not really taken off. It's the people manipulating
Sure.
the pointer.
Mm-hmm.
And again, devil's advocate, if I said, gee, Rosemary, I think that is it anthropomorphizing? I think that you're attributing these things. You're interpreting them like you want to. Mm-hmm. How do you know that that's really what's going on? Is that a fair question?
It's a fair question. It's
Okay.
a very fair question. Let me tell you what happened next. I was wondering, you know, since I'd been speaking those words in that pattern, I tried that pattern, wondering if she did understand some of what she'd been hearing in the household for the last 8 years. Because we'd been talking to them the way people do, and not and assuming they didn't understand.
Sure.
Except maybe
but it's fun.
the emotional. Yeah. Everybody does that. And so I said, Diode, where's the light? So Diode looks up, and she raises up on her front feet like that, and then she starts steering up to the light, and it is a light bulb in a floor lamp. And I said, wow, you know. And so I tried it out with other things. And here, this is the thing that helps to understand your question. She steered.
And are you holding her?
I'm holding her,
Okay.
and she's steering. This is the way we worked. So I tested her on other things. What's of this? What's of that? And some things she identified she would go to and indicate. Other things not. And the fact that she wasn't getting all of them suggested to me that probably I wasn't responsible. And then over the course of how many years, 30-some years since, there are so many other things that they do that correlate at the same time. So it's pretty clear to me that they're doing things.
Okay. So you have more than one turtle.
I do.
You have Diode.
I have Diode, and I have a male box turtle, different species, but it turns out that they can produce young.
Okay.
And I have 5 of their young.
Okay.
And then I have 7 box turtles, a mom, and 6 of hers.
Okay. So
A pancake tortoise, that's what I meant to say.
which is a different, and a tortoise is a land
Yeah.
animal, and a turtle is a aquatic animal?
This is a terribly confusing sort of thing. Because
We're in deep now.
Yeah,
so-
we're in deep. What's safe is that you can use the word turtle for any of the shelled reptiles.
Okay. Okay.
And if you have a tortoise, that is definitely land turtle, yes, and they're highly adapted
Okay.
to usually an arid situation. There are water turtles, freshwater turtles, sea turtles, and box turtles are somewhere in the middle. They're called semi-aquatic turtles because they're related over here, but they're really mostly terrestrial.
Okay.
So it's a little complicated, and in different places the common names are a little different.
Okay. So, and where I was going with this is, and with all respect, I mean, this is so new to me, but so this is true, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the Diode did these things
Mm-hmm.
and is communicating. Is that an absolute anomaly, or is this, the reason I ask about more turtles is, can they all do that?
They can all do it. The hatchlings, I would start as soon as the yolk is on the bottom shell is absorbed.
Okay.
Within the first week, and carry them. And then I carry them around to a turtle, and I say, turtle. and another one, turtle, turtle, or to the real turtle, turtle. And then I asked, they will go then, when I say turtle, they would go to a drawn turtle, or a real turtle, a TV turtle, whatever. They understood the concept of that this sounds, this combination of sounds that humans make means something. And it happens really fast.
Okay. There's no end to my questions. So they can hear.
They can hear.
And they're interpreting what you say.
The hearing is pretty good. They can hear pretty much the range of the piano.
Okay.
Better, stronger, below middle C.
Okay.
But they can hear way up there too, but not as loud.
Okay. How do they communicate?
Mostly visually, which is very hard for a human to get into.
Right.
Which is one reason that when you're doing animal behavior, you're either doing wild work, and that works for some things. Cognition, not so much. In the lab, you can explore things from the other side of the coin and eventually make a better
So your
idea.
turtles are at your house.
Yes.
But I guess that's a lab.
Yes,
Maybe you would
I
call
bought
that,
it.
would classify as lab work.
Yes.
Okay.
So I bought a house that had a good-sized, quote, family room.
I can just see you talking to the realtor.
Yeah. yeah. A lot of houses didn't work that, especially when it's a one-person house.
Yeah.
And I really didn't need a McMansion.
Except for the family room.
Except for the family room,
Yeah.
right? It had to be I found it's really too small now because I had to put a lot of books in it too.
Mm-hmm.
But where were we going on this?
Talking to, or not talking, communicating with each other.
Yes, communicating with each other. There is some smell.
Okay.
The males in particular, of course, being interested in the smell, like a dog.
Sure.
With the females, there's a little bit of vocalization.
Really?
Some turtles will make aggressive sounds to others.
Like a growl? Or what does
like
it sound like?
An open mouth gesture, and then sometimes the sound. Depends on the species. And the most species-specific one is with tortoise males in the course of courtship and sex.
Okay.
Turns out that these turtles learn to imitate some of our sounds.
Oh my goodness.
So one thing leads to another, but the communication angle is what was developed first.
One thing that I'm struck with so often in sort of the range of our experience is what we don't know.
Right.
And when I was reading a little bit about you, and I thought, I remember reading that when Europeans came to this continent, they thought Native Americans didn't have a language. Mm-hmm. And they thought that because they couldn't understand it.
Right.
How arrogant is that?
Yes.
But aren't we doing the same thing, assuming that, I mean, at least me, well, turtles don't talk. Or turtles, I don't know what, they kind of eat and sleep and reproduce, and that's their life.
There is some research by a man named Vogt in South America, who has studied river turtles in the Amazon, and these are large turtles, and he just discovered that the mothers will make sounds to the eggs, and
Really?
and to then later to the hatchlings, which is.
And I wonder if that's a bonding. In other words, does that hatchling then identify with that mother? Is that what's going on, or
I don't know.
maybe we're beyond?
We don't.
Or that's
I don't
beyond
think we
us.
know that yet.
Okay.
But there are other turtles that are similar things are being discovered. So, there's so much out there. That's the reason that we're doing a totally open-ended program.
So I want to talk to you about that a little bit. And I'd ask you earlier if there's, again, I don't know the words, but I'm going to say pure science, just, we want to find out because we want to find out. Or if there's some, I hope we find out because it'll lead to an advancement in medicine. Or I hope we find out because we'll learn something about human behavior. Whatever it is, do you see anything out there, or is it just so fascinating that you just keep doing it?
Well, it's fascinating. I keep doing it no matter what, I think.
Yeah.
I made a whole career change.
Right.
Because of them, instead of going on and finishing dissertation. Wait a minute, where are we?
Well, I was wondering if there's an end to your research, or the
purpose.
Not an end, but a goal.
Yes, yes.
And I'm doing this because I want to get there.
Yes, there are few applications, probably for learners of language.
Really? Okay. Because this is a form of communication.
But that's a sort of minor part. Okay. What we're really involved in is if people think of turtles as intelligent beings, how are they going to respond to them?
Right.
You see that in dolphins, you see that in elephants.
Right.
You see that in the corvids. People respect these animals in ways that they did not respect them before. Differently. They treat them differently. Yeah. And treating them differently is very important. It has to do with preservation of species.
Well, and doesn't that open up the door?
It opens up the door to a lot of things.
Yeah, because we didn't know this and now we do, so what else don't we know?
And I am involved in the whole idea of writing for the benefit of animals. And whether that's, in my case, particularly the respect for the animals, animal rights, the protection of habitat, the problems with people below the law taking animals, particularly the rare, expensive ones that are so desirable to certain people, taking them from the wild and depleting wild stocks. Yeah. So yes, there are other goals. And yes, I am writing now, or I just finished a piece.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that. You're working on, this is creative nonfiction?
Well, this, right at the particular thing, yes, the creative nonfiction started way back in 1979 when I started making, when we started, after Diode's experiment, or charade, I started experimenting with them, working with them seriously and writing about it all the time. And, but now I've just finished a piece for an anthology for writers that Ashland Street Press is putting out, writing for animals, that is for the benefit of animals. So I have an essay that's coming out there, and so you see that ties into your question.
And Rosemary, we're getting so short on time, and I really, ostensibly this was about your poetry. Could you read us one or two of your poems, maybe pick out something? And
absolutely. What I often start with is this little haiku, because it's the beginning of all things. called Hatching. Egg tooth cracks white shell. Turtle peers out to the world. Everything so big.
So this is from the turtle's perspective.
From the turtle's perspective.
Right.
And some of these poems are written from the turtle's perspective. We talked about what Diode's experiment. Let me read you one that's partly about that. It's called 13 Ways of a Turtle Looking. And any writers will probably say, oh, 13 ways of looking at a blackbird. So I turned it upside down. In this case, it's the turtle looking, not being looked at.
Okay.
1. At the foot of a forested hill, box turtle watches and waits by the side of the road. Cars, partly animals, pose no danger. I look down at her, and turtle becomes the box of her name, eyes and all of her tucked in. 3. The pink, tall animals make many flavored sounds. Does a turtle mind save an image in the dark? 4. Turtle creeps under maple leaves matched to golden stripes. A surreptitious eye tells a turtle's truth, her philosophy of hiding. Watch, she says, but be not watched. In hand, the turtle, Diode, loses wildness. Her curious eyes seek novelty. Human high, she learns the joy of flight. 6. Her limbs become paddles and pushers. Her push-pull press of my hand lead my feet to follow her motion and gaze as she turns and climbs. My human hubris abandoned on the floor. 7. She regards the marks and the spines of the books. Diode, do you decipher the details? 8. In the garden, she turns to the colors of roses and lilacs and nestles her head in bright petals and scents. 9. Shell arching high shields turtle from torture of teeth. Closed, she survives the attack. Wait. Don't peek now. 10. From my hand, this mother of many peers under leaning bunch grass. We search for her napping daughter. 11. Turtle sun climbs toward me and gives me the look. Pick me up, it says. Please let me fly. 12. Box turtle studies puzzle pieces jumbled in the jigsaw box. Dips down to choose one. Points to its place in the blue. 13. Diode steers with sudden verve to fix her eyes on a sprawling spider plant. She holds her stare, pivots, and directs me to another plant, a pair now, then more. With house plants all found, she visits 20 mirrors. At each, she stops and stares. Oh, Diode, though reptile, you looked, you classified, and then devised a way, a turtle charade, to show us what you know.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. That's amazing. Because that's the whole story.
That's the story.
Yeah.
That's the story.
That's great. If somebody wanted a copy of the book, how can they do that?
Well, I don't have any at the moment. I hope to have some fairly soon.
Okay.
But they are on Amazon and on a number of Amazon's other affiliates.
Okay. But that's what I was
And
thinking.
you can get
they
a
could go
publisher, which is Finishing Line Press
Okay.
in Kentucky.
And you want to say the name again, the title?
The title is Turtles All the Way Poems. You probably know the Turtles All the Way Down story.
You know, as I was looking up information on you, I found that I don't know what that is.
Oh, there's a tradition, I think coming out of Indonesia, but not only there, that the turtle is what holds up the world.
Okay, sure.
And Stephen, the physicist,
Hawking?
Hawking, thank you, tells the story about, he thinks it was Bernard Shaw, was talking to a little old woman, and she said, you're wrong about that. Because he was talking about physics, or was the other, not Shaw, but anyway.
Okay.
Talking about physics. That's not the way the world is. The world is held up by a turtle. And he says, oh yeah, very well, but what's under the turtle? What's holding up the turtle? Why, she says, it's turtles all the way down. And that is actually the title of another book of poems that are partly about turtle, but a turtle represents the author. She and I got acquainted.
Oh, really?
Because of that, and we hope one of these days to do a joint reading.
Oh, I hope so.
Turtles all the way and turtles all the way down.
If you do that, let me know.
I will do that indeed.
Okay. All right. Rosemary, thank you so much. I love doing this interview, this show, because there's a whole bunch I don't know. And I get to learn a little bit. And you sure enlightened me about turtles. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for the
keep writing.
opportunity.
And then when you do your creative nonfiction, let us know too.
Yes.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Folks, that's it for The Writing Life, for Turtles for the moment. I'm Stephen W. Long. You can visit me at the website stephenwlong.com. Send me a note. And otherwise, we'll see you next time on The Writing Life. Thanks. Thanks.